Well, it is the final Powers on Sports podcast before the two best days of the year on the baseball calendar. Of course, Monday night, the Home Run Derby taking place from Arlington, Texas, and the All Star game taking place on Tuesday night. Now, the Home Run Derby, of course, going to be the it's always going to be fun to watch a bunch of people hitting a home run. And of course, it looks like the favorite to win the home run derby this year is Pete Alonso. And so, as we take a look, uh, we do have Pete Alonso of the Mets is in the home run derby. He's going to be taking on Alec Bohm of the Phillies. Adolis Garcia, the local Texas Rangers guy, the hero of last year's World Series, will be taking place. Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles. Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers. Marcell Ozuna of the Braves. Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians. Bobby Witt Jr. of the Kansas City Royals. And so it's going to be a good derby. And of course, the Phillies playing very good baseball right now. And as of right now, it looks like the road to the pennant may very well go through Citizens Bank Park. But seems like the favorite to win this home run derby is Pete Alonso. But of course, he's going to have to go against the hometown kid, Adolis Garcia, who simply went on a tear last October. And it'll be interesting to see who carries it out. Who's going to win the home run derby? Testing one. Testing two. Yeah, I've been taking a look at Wikipedia. And according to Wikipedia, when it comes to the results of the All-Star game, the American League has taken the lead and will not look back on that. But in the future, Major League Baseball All-Star game locations, of course, July 16th, Texas Rangers will host it. Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. The next year, July 15th, 2025, the All-Star Games heading to Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves. And then July of 2026, the Philadelphia Phillies, Citizens Bank Park, will host the Major League Baseball All-Star Game at that point. Getting back to it, the American League, they lead this series overall, 47 wins, 44 losses, and 2 ties. And they lead in the runs, 383 to 377 to the National League. So it's been remarkably even split between both the American and the National League, but of course, this being the highest level of competitive baseball, it probably should be that way. And so it's very interesting. Of course, the Major League Baseball All-Star Games had some memorable moments in its past, memorable moments to be made, I'm sure, this Tuesday, and memorable moments to be made in future All-Star Games as well. Of course, the one moment that everybody can think of and dislikes right away was the tie from the 2002 Major League Baseball All-Star Game when both teams, surprise, surprise, ran out of players. And so it was because of that, the following year in 2003, to stop players from leaving early and stop teams from running out of players, that they decided to add the stipulation to the All-Star Game that whichever league wins the All-Star Game wins home field advantage for their team in the World Series. And of course, there have been teams where they didn't necessarily need the home field advantage and they still won. Of course, that means more than likely they won their World Series game, especially went to the 6 or 7 game on the road. Of course, I immediately think of the Chicago Cubs and how they had to play their deciding game 6 and 7 of the World Series, which they won the 2016 World Series, but had to win those 2 games on the road in Cleveland. But of course, that was a series that we'll never forget. And of course, the Cubs, I believe, an entire starting infield for the National League started in 2016. So baseball fans are some of the smartest fans in all sports. When you're having a year that is unprecedented in baseball history, the fans generally will try to reward you for that. And so we will see. I know the national lineup very Philadelphia heavy, and of course, so we'll see if National League can pull this one out, or if the American League will continue their winning ways as of late. And so for the Chicago Cubs, right when it looked like they had remembered how to win again, they had a Friday night game against the Cardinals, which was broadcast on Apple TV, and they managed to survive, and they won 5-1 against the Cardinals, and then they go out and get swept in a doubleheader against the Cardinals, and it's a doubleheader loss that will probably take the Cubs from buying to selling at the deadline. A team that, with all their faults and all their flaws, still looked like they had a chance to compete for a wild card spot. And that second wild card spot, especially. But the Cardinals and Cubs is the best rivalry in the National League because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what the record is when you play a rival. That all goes out the window, and you try to beat them just because of the intense dislike of your rival. And so we'll see. I do know in the Cubs case that Shota Imanaga is going to be an all-star. The rookie will make his first trip to the all-star game, and he's been a bright spot on a bad Cubs team. And a team that started with so much promise, and then just fell off a cliff. And unfortunately, good players like Cody Bellinger, I know he was just hitting the hand, and hopefully he will be okay, are going to be sent elsewhere because of it. We've had Seiya Suzuki has recently had some adventures in the outfield, but this and the Cubs bullpen, it's just been absolutely atrocious. It's reached a point where I now want every Cubs starter to go all 9 innings if they have to, because the Cubs bullpen is probably the worst bullpen I have ever seen on any team, and that's completely inexcusable. I know that ever since baseball went to the designated hitter in the National League and the American League, there are no more easy outs for any pitchers. With that being said, the Cubs pitching staff, their bullpen especially, is absolutely horrendous. And it's going to take several years uh, for this bullpen to finally become big league ready and get the big league outs. I don't know who the Cubs bullpen coach is, but it's quite clear that they should find a new line of work.